What's up, everybody? It's Crashbox here again, and today we're going to be talking about the weird/experimental artist Iceberg. Now, today's Iceberg is going to be a little bit different than what we did last time. I'm going to be focusing on a bunch of different artists instead of just one artist. And since this Iceberg is so big and has so many people on it, I'm thinking that this is going to have to be a multi-part series. So this is just going to be the first part, which is probably just like the first 3 layers or something like that. Now, in the first 3 layers of this Iceberg, which was created by user No Reflection, there are a lot of artists that kind of everyone knows already and don't really have much going for them, like Billie Eilish or the Beatles or JPEGMAFIA, or even people like Injury Reserve. Like, these are groups that kind of lesser people know, or like they don't have as many fans, but if you're watching this video, you've probably at least heard of them or know their vibe. So for the less interesting entries, I'm just going to completely skip them. And that includes the entire first level of the iceberg and pretty much the entire second level of the iceberg and a little bit of the third level of the iceberg. The reason I'm doing it this way and in multiple parts is because if I did all of this iceberg in one video, it would be like 2 hours long. And if you clicked on the video and you didn't really enjoy it and not a lot of people watched it, then I'm really wasting both of our time. So for this one, it's just going to be a little bit of a shorter video, but I actually will think that a lot of you guys will like this one because doing research on it, a lot of these artists are really interesting. Some people I've never heard of, and some of the craziest music that I've ever heard in just like a couple hours worth of research. So I hope you guys enjoy it. I appreciate the support on the last one. I really appreciate the comments. Make sure y'all keep commenting because that really keeps me going. And without further ado, here is the weird/experimental artist Iceberg. 100 Gecs. 100 Gecs is a group that consists of Dylan Brady and Laura Less, and they mostly do hyperpop with a little bit of influence on kind of other genres all the time. Now, to a normal person, this music sounds like satire. I mean, it is completely out of the ordinary. It has dumb lyrics, purposely dumb visuals, and purposely dumb beats, but it kind of combines to make this really interesting and unique sound. I personally really like 100 Gecs. They're not like my favorite or anything, and honestly, in my opinion, like only like 2/3 of their music is kind of listenable for me, but music that is listenable is really creative. It's good, it's interesting, but everyone kind of has their own taste, you know. I'm not a super big fan of it. This is me editing, but I feel like I didn't really explain them that well at all, to be honest, but they're kind of hard to explain. You kind of gotta listen to their music and to kind of get it. But The Caretaker. The Caretaker is an English ambient musician named Leland James Kirby. The Caretaker is just like another one of his, not characters, but another one of like the names that he goes under. Now, The Caretaker has done a decent amount of projects, a lot of art projects, and James Kirby has personally worked on The Shining. So The Caretaker is mostly known for Everywhere at the End of Time, which is like a 6-hour album describing what dementia would feel like for a dementia patient. It's pretty cool. I heard people that listen to it all actually feel like they're starting to get dementia. It's kind of like this internet horror thing that if you listen to it, you might get dementia, but obviously you won't. Now, the Dementia Project, or Everywhere at the End of Time, is kind of like this ambient sounding 6-hour long process that consists of old samples slowly fading into just complete distortion. It's pretty cool, but if I were you, I wouldn't listen to it all. It's kind of a waste of time. That being said, though, his music and overall creativity is insane, but yeah, just don't listen to it all because it's really long. 1-800-PAIN. So 1-800-PAIN is a experimental alternative rap duo group. It was formed in 2020, consisting of the vocals of Joni Jetski and production by Joan DeBonchis. Now, pretty much this group is just this experimental rap group that pitches their vocals to shit, and if you listen to it for the first time, it's actually pretty insane. This was my first time listening to them, and a lot of it was very overwhelming and very loud, but in some ways it was pretty cool. I will say that their album covers are pretty cool too. They're a little bit freaky, a little bit weird, so I'll put some of those on the screen right now. And I'm sure we'll see a lot of weird album covers as we go down the iceberg. AC. So this entry is referring to a band that goes by AC, and I'll refer to them as AC so I don't get demonetized. But pretty much the band is this weird rock experimental group that has some of the weirdest music I have ever listened to. Their genre is considered grindcore, and most of their music isn't even enjoyable at all. I wouldn't be surprised if this was satire in the least. They've had over 10 band members, and all of them have either kind of left the band or dissolved the band in some way, and they stopped completely releasing music in 2011. The weird thing about this band is that they have the weirdest titles to their songs, the weirdest album covers, and in their middle of their discography, there's an album called Picnic of Love, which is some of like the most heartfelt music. I think it has horrible vocals, and the instrumentals aren't very good, but all the songs are super kind of lovely in some ways. Like all the lyrics are completely different from any of their other songs. It's very, very strange. And apparently a bunch of their old music was just improvised stuff. Like they wouldn't even write anything down, any riffs. It was just loud, distorted noise. And when you listen to them, you can see why that's true. I don't understand why anyone likes this band at all. But hey, you can do what you want. I'm not going to judge your opinion on art, I guess. Blank Banshee. So Blank Banshee is a Canadian artist known as Patrick Driscoll and professionally known as Blank Banshee. He does a lot of like vaporwave electronic music and has a couple albums out on Spotify. His music is pretty cool, but it contains pretty much no vocals, so if you're into something like that, I guess go check him out. Bowls of Heaven. So I'm 99% sure that this entry is referring to a band called Bowl of Heaven, but it's pretty much the same thing. Bowl of Heaven is an American experimental avant-garde group. Now, the band originally consisted of Clayton Counts and Neil Keener, which helped with various contributors alongside the band. But apparently Clayton Counts passed away, and now Keener is the only band member left. Now, this band has made over 31 albums in just 3 years, from 2019 to 2022, and it looks like Keener is still making music right now. Their music consists of like ambient sounds with pretty much no vocals. They don't really have that much attention to them too on Spotify. They have like 500 monthly listeners as of right now. Farrah Abraham. So while reading through the Iceberg, I started finding a lot of boring entries, like a lot of artists that I already knew about or that weren't that interesting or kind of were all the same. So when I came across Farrah Abraham, it felt very refreshing. Farrah Abraham is an American reality television personality. She is an artist, a singer, and a pornographic actress. She does all of these things, and she's kind of famous for it, but she came out with an album called My Teenage Dream Ended, and it's commonly known as one of the worst albums of all time. Like, I'm serious, this album is horrible. Like, if you want to listen to a dog shit, terrible album, I suggest it. But I will say that some people like this album because of how bad it is and think that Farrah Abraham made it kind of as satire, but I seriously doubt it. I don't really see why she would do something like that. She doesn't seem like that deep of a person to make an album purposely this bad. Now, a lot of people say it's tied with another album that we'll talk about, and I'll talk about that one later. Gore Shit. So there's this band called Gore Shit. It features Leon and Shred Wilson, and they came up together to make like this experimental electronic music thing. I actually think the music here is actually pretty interesting. If it's not your cup of tea, I completely understand. Like, I would never have listened to this just like casualty, but if you find something that you like in it, I completely understand, because there's some songs I listened to where I was like, oh, that's pretty decent, you know? Hannah Tarash. I know I mispronounced that, but Hannah Tarash or Natarish, whatever it's called, is this little band that uses drill music. They originally started in Osaka, Japan in 1984. I think the reason why this band is on the Iceberg is because their music is extremely hard to find. Like, I haven't found any of their music yet, but they have whole discographies on Wikipedia. I'm sure if you look hard enough, you'll find it, but I think it's just kind of normal Japanese drill music, and there's other examples of bands like that. Injury Reserve and Clipping. If you consider yourself to be a really big hip-hop fan, then you should know who these two groups are. Clipping is like a horror rap group. They do a lot of things with like storytelling and weird production choices, but overall they're really cool. I completely recommend them. And Injury Reserve on the other side just started getting experimental in 2021, even though they showed flashes in their prior music. The reason I grouped these two groups together and kind of wanted to shout them out is because I personally really like them, and I don't really understand why they're this deep on the iceberg, but fuck it, right? Merzbow is an artist hailing out of Tokyo, Japan. Now, the reason he's on this iceberg is because of how loud his music is. It is super loud. And when I first listened to the song Woodpecker No. 1, not knowing my phone was at full volume, I literally jumped out of my seat. Clicking and a lot of electronic noises and a lot of just random ass sounds all the time. Now, I honestly don't really see the appeal at all to this. I feel like anyone can make music like this, but that's just my ignorant opinion. I mean, there's obviously a difference between this and just noise, but listening to this shit is like creepy. It's kind of cool. It's whatever. I wouldn't really recommend him to any experimental listener just because I feel like his music is so out there. Natural Snow Buildings. Natural Snow Buildings is a duo formed from France. Now, they play music which can be classified as like this experimental psychedelic folk music with drone elements and some like ambient noises in there too. They were formed in 1998, and they've released a bunch of albums since then, even though they're kind of in limited quantities. That's taken directly from Wikipedia, and there's not really any really other thing about them at all online. Apparently they have a cult following, and a lot of their music is about like the devil and like Satan worshipping and cults and creepy stuff. I don't know. It's like the usual thing. Farmakin. This entry is referring to this lady called Margaret Chardiet, or Charday, something like that. She is the lead and only member of an experimental music project called Farmakin or Farmakin. Now, pretty much most of her music consists of just loud noises, but instead of trying to make as much sound as possible compared to like these other artists that we've checked out, she tries to perfect a sound at once. There are very little lyrics in her music, and the lyrics that you do find are usually harsh, kind of crazy, a little bit graphic. I mean, if you listen to her and you know her discography, you probably know all the other artists on the iceberg. This is kind of as crazy as music gets. Pilot Red Sun. I'm not really sure why this one is that deep on the iceberg, but Pilot Red Sun is just this former YouTuber guy. He makes music now, and it's like this electronic music that's pretty normal. It kind of just sounds like Minecraft music or like video game music. The weird thing about him is that his music's pretty mainstream, but you can't really find it on any real streaming services. You have to go to SoundCloud or Bandcamp or something like that. Sewer, SLVT, can't really say the second part of that word on YouTube. This Sewer person, don't want to say the second part of it for obvious reasons, is a artist that kind of makes like electronic music with like some sampling and stuff in there. Now, if I had to describe their music the best, I would probably say it's like Rainbow Road music, like from Mario Kart. But I'm guessing the reason why this person is on the iceberg is because they're apparently a horrible person. There's multiple threads and videos saying that they did what pretty much Marilyn Manson did and put like child gore on an album cover and was transphobic and homophobic and racist and stuff. Now, this is just coming from the internet. It could definitely not be true at all. And to be honest, I didn't really want to look that deep into it. We have a lot of people to cover today and kind of felt like a waste of time to dive into someone's history. But anyways, this sewer person just has a big cult following and a lot of people that doesn't like them, and they're kind of a weird loophole rabbit hole thing in the internet that a lot of people like to talk about. Silencer. This is one of the most evasive bands on the Iceberg. They have never done any live shows or given any official interviews or said anything to their fans, and they've only made one album. Now this album was like this metal rock thing with lyrical concepts of death, insanity, suicide, stuff like that. The band consists of two members, Natram and this other guy that no one knows. Now, they made this one album called Death Pierce Me. It's pretty short, it's 6 songs, but it's 48 minutes. You can listen to it if you want, it's pretty cool. Steam Powered Giraffe. Steam Powered Giraffe is probably the most versatile band on this Iceberg. They do comedy, projections, ballet, puppetry, robot skits, and music. Nowadays, they're almost solely focused on music, but they do some comedy on stage. There's been over 10 members that have walked into the band and also stepped out. The main member that I think we should bring up, though, is Michael Philip Reed, who had some inappropriate interactions with fans and has caused the band a lot of controversy now. And I think that's one of the big reasons why they haven't made music since 2020 when those allegations came out. Their music is like this electronic, really talkative, really loud thing that is actually not too bad to listen to. It's pretty easy to listen to, in fact, and while I'm not going to recommend it, you can listen to it. Sun Zero. Sun Zero is your average experimental rock band that doesn't really have any vocals at all. They've worked with Boris, and they make like this drone metal, doom metal, experimental metal music. The members are Stefan O'Malley and Greg Anderson. Apparently there's a bunch of guys that work in this band that are from other projects of their own that are a lot bigger. They're pretty cool, I guess. They make like this long ambient sounding thing with a lot of droning and a lot of these high-pitched vocals that don't really make any sense, but it's pretty cool. The Shags. You could make a whole video about this band, and I'm pretty sure there's good ones out there. But the Shags are commonly known as the worst band of all time. They're this American rock band that was formed in 1965. They are like 3 daughters of the Wiggins family, who their dad thought they would be like these big stars, these big pop stars, and be on the radio constantly. His name was Austin Wiggin, and he paid for the Shags to record an album called Philosophy of the World, which distributed in limited quantities in 1969. The Shags disbanded 6 years later after Austin's death, probably because they realized that they wouldn't have to stay a band if their father didn't make them. They didn't have any interest in becoming musicians whatsoever, and they were never proficient in songwriting or performing. They couldn't play instruments, and they composed these bizarre songs with untuned guitars, shifting time signatures, disconnected drum parts, wandering melodies, and worst of all, rudimentary lyrics about pets and families. Ugh. The crazy thing about this band is that this band has actually inspired a lot of people, including Frank Zappa and Kurt Cobain. They have a decent amount of fans, and I think it's because their music is so ironically bad that it's good. I mean, just listening to a couple of these songs could immediately make you laugh like a comedy show. They also released this other album called Shag's Own Thing, which consists a bunch of unreleased songs, some covers, and pretty much just the Shags' unreleased music all into one. Now, the reason I'm talking about them for so long is because it's a very interesting story, and just listening to their music, you could see that none of them had any inspiration, had any teachings. They just went into a studio and did what their dad told them to do and made this album that is 30 minutes of just straight comedy. It's pretty damn good. Wesley Willis. Wesley Willis is this singer-songwriter rapper guy. He was born in 1963 and became an MC in the 1980s. He was diagnosed with schizophrenia in 1989, and this is really apparent when you hear his music. His music is kind of fun, it's upbeat, it's enjoyable, but I will say it's very bad, and it's ironically stupid, and the album covers are stupid, and the lyrics are stupid, but if you're into that type of thing, then I get it. His best songs are called Rock and Roll McDonald's, I Wiped Batman's Ass, and Suck a Caribou's Ass. So that's like a little taste of what his music is. Viper. We are really saving the best for last on this one with Viper. Viper has released 250 albums, all on Spotify since 2015, and has released about 400 albums in total. His real name is Lee Arthur Carter, born on October 7, 1971, and he commonly gets comparisons to rapper Lil B and Wesley Willis, who we just talked about. He is kind of the originator of cloud rap, as he raps on like these trap beats, but I wouldn't be surprised if most of you guys listening to his music thought that he was satire, because when I first listened to him, I thought it was satire. But no, this guy is completely serious. His most popular song is called "Y'all Cowards Don't Even Smoke Crack." This song is not only his most popular, but probably his best song. He's still making music to this day. He's released a bunch of albums in 2022, even though he's slowed down a bit. And most of his albums are literally just freestyles on random trap beats. If you go to this dude's Spotify profile, you'll see some of the craziest album covers. Most of them are just a weird, distorted selfie of him, or like this woman in a sexual position or something like that. I mean, some of his album covers are just dead-ass porn. Other than that, though, Viper has done some things in his career that aren't exactly the best. Some people question if he has like a mental disability, and he might, because of the things that he's done. I don't want to get into it. This isn't a video about Viper, but you could do your research or watch a video for yourself. So that was the disturbing / experimental artist Iceberg. Thank you guys for watching and getting to this point. I'll say this. The reason I split it into 2 parts is because I didn't know if you guys were going to like it. So if you guys do like it and you made it to this part, comment below that you liked it. And the video will definitely get copyrighted and will 100% get demonetized. So could you please leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more Iceberg videos. I don't post super often. I probably am going to start posting a little bit more often than I have been. But it's mostly just going to be cool videos with stuff like this. Different people, interesting artists, diving into artists' discography, and just having fun. We're just having fun over here, so you don't have to if you don't want to, but if you could, like the video, leave a comment, you know what I mean. Do everything you need to do, and this is Crashbox, and I'm out.